Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folaring. Let's continue with the NDDC. So many developments going on, dramatic too. But before we sort of talk about it this morning, because we'll seek to understand what exactly is the origin of all, if you want, drama that's going on now. The actual purpose of the probe, what was that expected to achieve? The president has spoken through his spokesman, and you say, look, all the different agencies coordinating this, that are involved in this whole investigation, should just find a way to coordinate themselves, so that the National Assembly can get to the bottom of this whole issue. I get the question at the end of the day is, why have we got no more than we have, which is not very much, in the Niger Delta, considering the humongous monies that have been spent going back to the Ompatec days till it has transformed now into what it is, the NDDC. But let's start off with a report by our Joke Adisa.
Please join Mr. President for the signing into law of the budget. An investigative hearing.
The House Committee on NDDC is investigating alleged abuse of procurement laws in the award of contracts and other activities of the Interim Management Committee of the NDDC. The acting managing director of the commission leads a team before the lawmakers.
The ayes have it.
The chairman calls the meeting to order and a drama ensues. The NDDC team refuses to be part of the investigative hearing until the chairman steps down.
The NDDC has over the time accused the Honorable Olubunmi Tunji Ojo of different crimes against the NDDC and its people, and he has responded in press. He's an interested party, and we do not believe that the NDDC can have justice because he cannot sit in his own case.
The lawmakers are not ready to adhere to such demand.
The House have decided that this is a committee affair and not a personalized affair. And since it is not about the chairman of the committee, the motion that called for this particular hearing has not been rescinded in the House. I think it is out of order for an invited guest to instruct us on how to regulate the activities of the House.
The acting managing director of NDDC has acted in defiance of the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act, which provides that no person should fail to answer to questions put to him in the proceedings of the Legislative House.
Our invited guest.
Then the NDDC team walks out. The legislators passed a vote of confidence in their chairman and invoked the law to compel the NDDC team answer to all allegations of financial impropriety relating to 81.5 billion naira spent in 5 months.
As a committee, we have done our best to give them the right of fair hearing. And the acting managing director of NDDC came in and decided to walk out on this committee as his permission was not granted. Let it be on record that he walked out on this committee.
The Inspector General of Police is expected to produce the acting managing director of the commission at the next sitting of the House Committee on NDDC, probing alleged financial wrongdoing by the Interim Management Committee. Joke Adisa, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, so there you have it, the latest, as it were, in the situation report coming in from the National Assembly. And as I said, this is about a probe into allegations of, quite frankly, corruption, when you look at the corruption, quite frankly, that has prevented the NDDC from doing its actual statutory job. It's got colorful, it's involved persons, it's involved institutions, And well, the president has sort of stepped into it and said, you know what, there has to be a better coordination of all the various bodies, going up to the National Assembly so that we can actually get to the bottom of all of this. The passions are very, very high. The money that has been spent by Nigeria on that place, it's a stupendous sum. And yet there is not, I won't say there's nothing to show for it, but there is not as much as you would expect given the money that has been spent. And so there is a school of thought that goes on that we've heard it here that, well, the problem of the Niger Delta is actually the Niger Delta itself, whatever that means. Well, we've been joined this morning by Malaki Ugumadu, human rights lawyer. You know him. He's a former chair of the Committee for Defense of Human Rights. Good morning, Malaki. Thank you as always for joining us.
Good morning, Yori. It's my pleasure to be here again with you this morning.
Indeed.
Good morning, viewers.
Indeed, the pleasure is all ours. Now, if one is not careful, one could get distracted by the, quite frankly, colorful, dramatic episodes that are surrounding this important subject. The whole purpose, we want to sort of get to the bottom of, what's going on in the National Assembly and why have we not been able to get traction in terms of development, which is one of the main reasons the NDDC was set up. Why have we not been able to get any traction? First of all, give me your thinking on this, on how easy it is to get to where we need to be, which is a clear-cut understanding of what the problems are, what the faults are, that we need to rectify so that we can move forward.
Well, if it is that easy, within the present political configuration of Nigeria, I don't think it will be this convoluted. I chose to say that because the aberration has become very, very disturbing in a way that completely undermines the hope of the Nigerian people that there is indeed anything in there for them. That is regarding the development, regarding the progress, regarding specifically the revamping and the development of the entire Niger Delta as the case may be. I hope I captured what you meant by that question, but my point is simple. I'm actually from Ndokwa East local, one of the core Niger Delta communities, and I have often told you, even jokingly, that if you knew where I come from, you will not invite me for a program any longer. I don't have access to roads. We still use canoe, speedboat. There are moments in my community when you cannot bury human beings because the entire place is flooded from this moment up till around September, November. No hospital, no dispensary homes, no schools, nothing, no electricity. Needless to talk of other amenities and infrastructures. So that is given that this region is not just impoverished, it is neglected and needs urgent government intervention.
Which was the reason the NDDC was set up in the first place as a successor to the former one, which I think was, is that Ompadek or something like that? It is the very reasons, for the very reasons you are mentioning now, that it was set up, say, no, this doesn't have to be so. But it would appear that allegations are that the people of the region themselves are perhaps the worst enemy of the projects.
Well, to characterize it as such will not be too far from what has turned out to be. But please grant me the indulgence to insist that this particular government, just like so many before it, did promise to take these regions out of this quagmire, out of the present quagmire, and reposition it as a region that, lays the golden fleece. In so many respects, efforts have been deployed in that direction. The Ompadek you talk about was not headed by any other, in short, Opia, Benebese Opia, and so on and so forth, were indigenous of this region. The Winiki Commission, all of these were efforts preceding this current time to be able to give a lease of life and some measure of development to this region. Now, if the actors in whom you had entrusted the management and operationalization of these policies are now working at cross purposes with you, first, that would mean that your judgment, your choices were wrong. Second, it will be a test of your political will to continue with the legacy that you want to leave behind and drag it to a reasonable extent such that at the end of the day, it will be clear that even in the face of all the usual obstacles, you were able to break through and then bring about the much desired development in that region. To that extent, I am hesitant in accepting that that alone would be a reason why the entire noble objective for which this commission was established in the first place will be entirely defeated. Mark you, in the last 6 months, it has been the tough talk about forensic audit of the commission, with a view to getting to the bottom of what has happened, and with a greater view of, taking that all away to focus on the issue of development. But in these last 6 months, it seems that the entire exercise has not just complicated the situation, it has compounded the situation. And you can hear them talk about, particularly the ex-wife managing director, the lady, Joy, Madam Joy. He said no single audit, forensic audit is going on in the moment. Even the one they claim to be conducting is marked in further controversy, further irregularities, further malfeasance, that at the end of the day, it will take a presidency, a political party, a government that is very, very alive to its responsibility to rescue the people of the Niger Delta, to rescue that region in a way that part of what they, I'm saying part of, my words are used advisedly. I'm not talking of the entire resources in the Niger Delta. Part of the resources in the Niger Delta reflects a bit in that region. So what is the point? The point is that President Muhammadu Buhari rode to power on the crest of 3 cardinal agenda. In short, the one that excited people most was fight against corruption. Not many people were persuaded that he had the magic one or the silver bullet to turn around the economy of the country or to understand the intricacies or dynamics of current world economic dynamics. No, people believed he can fight corruption. But the way and manner we have seen the question of corruption resurface and reinvent itself in this country. I'm not just talking of NDDC. You can see the front and back even in EFCC. You had before now Mr. Festus Keyamo and the same National Assembly. You must have been very disturbed by everywhere you turn to. In short, a friend of mine flew in from Abuja to Lagos yesterday and said he was shocked this morning that so much has happened before, between the time he left Abuja and today. So the point is that under the fundamental objectives and directive principle of state policy, specifically section 15, subsection 5, it is the admonition to the state. It is a responsibility to the Nigerian state to abolish all forms of corruption and abuse of power. If you go to section 88, subsection 2B, the National Assembly, which is the second arm of government, is also under a duty to expose corruption in any way that they find it and so on and so forth.
Okay, one moment, please. That's a fine place. Let me just take a break there. And thank you very much. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. And we have Malaki Ugumadu with us. We're looking at goings on, shall we say, around the whole issue of investigations into the NDDC. Now, the president, following quite a number of dramatic moves that are not really related to deepening our understanding of what the problems are, the president has ordered what is referred to as a better coordination amongst the various agencies investigating all of this. I don't really understand. That remains to be seen what that means. Perhaps one set of police officers, for example, I mean, since there are more, the police is not the only agency, perhaps one set of police officers effecting an action and another set of police officers coming along to sort of thwart or reverse or change that action. Maybe those are the kind of things that are meant as a better coordination. And no doubt we'll probably get a bit more. And as I said, it's not just the police. The whole forensic audit that Malaki was talking about, we have heard allegations that there is no forensic anything going on. Well, how can that be? Forensic audits are serious affairs, you know, by die-hard professionals usually. But to now hear that it's something of a sham, there has to be a processing of all of this so we can sort the wheat from the chaff and know what actually we can act on. I guess that's going to be very, very important moving forward. Otherwise, we might find that we're spending so much time and so much action and hardly any movement. That is the fear, perhaps even of Mr. President himself, so that he ordered as he has ordered. Malaki, sorry, that comment was directed at you, that perhaps the president is worried that we might, if we keep on like this, all the the scenes that we are seeing might actually distract from the objective of the whole exercise. The National Assembly has said that it has an oversight function, it has to do it, but arguably it hasn't been easy so far. You find people coming in and taking exception to certain things. Yesterday, for example, there was a report of NDDC representatives walking out because they were not satisfied. So all of this will have to be sorted out. I hear this morning that they've ordered the arrest of the offending party. All of these things have to be sorted out. Meanwhile, it's not really progressing the matter. So when the president was talking about we need to enhance the efficiencies. So those are the kind. I understand that Malaki, there's a technical issue. Malaki cannot hear, but Tunde, meanwhile, has called him from Ajah.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. But okay, let me hear from Tunde from Ajah, and then I'll come straight back to you, Malaki. Good morning, Mr. Tunde.
Good morning, Larry. How are we this morning?
Very well.
Honestly, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you both. I can hear you, I can hear Malaki. But please continue.
Okay. I guess the problem of corruption issue in the Niger Delta Commission is just terrible. Because Malaki said something earlier. A lot of people have been saying this, that the problem of the Niger Delta people of the Niger Delta is the Niger Delta people themselves. And the whole thing is even compounded by the involvement of the people in the National Assembly itself.
Yeah. It's just that when people talk like that, when people talk like that, and we say the people of the Niger Delta themselves, they're talking about their leaders, the people who should be in a position of leadership.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because the generality of the Niger Deltans are the people suffering this.
No, they've not brought anybody from Kano to head the NDDC. They've not brought anybody from Lagos State to head the NDDC. So it's on and on. And the man can say pointedly that even the chairman of the probing group is even involved. So this, I don't know what is going on.
Indeed.
Yes, people trusted that the president came in to probably try to solve the issue of corruption and all that. But all of us can see now that even beyond the Niger Delta, it is terrible. Look at what is even going on. No.
Okay,
don't know what's going to happen.
Thank you very much for calling in, Tunde. And it's in the statement from the presidency, there was that bit about not just in the Niger Delta, not just NDDC, other areas. We need to get to the bottom of this with a lot more efficiency than we currently have. Okay, back to you, Malaki. The efficiencies is what I was talking about at the beginning. Maybe your silence made us think that we had lost contact with you. Please go ahead. Okay. I just heard that sound, which would suggest that the network is drifting.
So now,
okay.
I can hear you clearly. Can I go on, please?
Please do.
I want to understand what you want me to speak on now, because when you say efficiency of what? The trend of our discussion has to do with the challenge in the Niger Delta. What specifically do you want me to address?
Okay. The goings on in the Niger Delta, indeed, everybody is concerned with that. But it would appear that there is no coordination. That was what I meant by efficiency. There's no coordination in all the investigating bodies. So that has to get, perhaps, if you didn't like the word efficiency, maybe get a lot more coordinated. And consequently, that was how efficiency came into it, in the investigation.
Fine, thank you very much. Thank you, Yori. I think you hit the nail on its head perfectly, in the sense that it seems to be a pattern that has turned to be a sad commentary on this government entirely. There is poor communication, there is poor coordination, and it has come at a very huge cost. Do not forget that the whole saga you now find in the EFCC had a very bitter aspect from the provenance, and that is that a man appointed by Mr. President, presumably after due investigation and check, became completely rejected by an arm of government on account of a report by an agency right in the presidency that reports directly to the presidency. I mean, there cannot be more unfortunate expose.
Okay. So that perhaps is one instance. Let me just quickly bring Mazi Okorafor on from Arochukwu. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Ayori.
Sure. Go ahead,
Honestly
please.
Speaking, you see, what is happening in Niger Delta looks like a child's play. Now, late President Yar'Adua came and designed a program for Niger Delta. And the vote with Mr. Shehu, the Delta for Nigeria, was a very, very viable and a progressive. But people inside the Niger Delta, now, look, I've said it in this program, I've seen it. Niger Delta built hostels in Kutowere, Uniport, come down to other universities, Calabar. What happened now? Instead of 2 students to sing the play, what happened now? They now keep 8 students. My children were there and they have graduated. Instead of 2 students, 8 students in a room. Now you ask yourself, where is the money? People ate the money instead of doing the rightful things that will cater for the students. Now, the federal government has appointed people and brought money for Niger Delta to progress. And some people have decided to be eating the money day in, day out. Now, it is not the job of the elders in Niger Delta to stand their ground and say that all these atrocities have been going to Niger Delta, they will kick against it. But they have closed their mouth. Now, you see a minister telling somebody that you have a poverty culture. What has that one got to do? Now, I thank Governor Wike for what he did yesterday, at least for saving that woman from that, what happened yesterday. Now, the thing is, it's a warning, because what international community are saying about Niger Delta is not healthy. Because when we come today, we destroy our country in the name of we want to reach our pocket. At the end of the day, what's happening now? People at Nigeria have been treated as 419 outside in Nigeria.
Okay, Mazi, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Mazi, for calling in. We're going to have to leave it here. And Malaki, Yeah, we're going to have to wrap up on this particular subject matter, but please go ahead.
Point.
Go ahead, Malaki.
All right. So, correct. So, again, I want to appeal to not just the viewers, but those who are commenting. Look, we mustn't run away with this whole notion that Niger Delta people are their own problem. Well, to the extent that we have seen a couple of characters that are parading themselves in the corridor of power and circumventing not just the rule, but the will of the people as regards the desired development. Correct.
I think we're going to have to leave it there, Malaki. I think we'll take your point. There's so many points to this particular aspect, but Mr. President has said there needs to be a lot more coordination, aka efficiency, in how all of this investigation is pulled together so we know exactly where we are and know what has to be done. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Malaki. Okay, stay with us, please. We'll go on a break. We'll be right back. Hello, Asuka. Welcome. And so here we are. We've just finished with, well, when I say finished, who can ever finish with such a big, giant subject? But we've just aired, as it were, some perspectives on the NDDC saga ongoing. The president has ordered that we need to get better coordinated, and maybe we'll stop getting all these dramatic films and clips and snippets, and get to the bottom of the actual matter, which is the investigation of accusations, of allegations of wrongdoing that has been thwarting efforts at development. So much so that the statement, you must have seen the statement, the presidency was saying that this is not just in relation to the Niger Delta, but other areas. And people have said that, look, they had expected this administration to fight corruption, as it had vowed to do, and perhaps in the views of those who were commenting, they weren't seeing as much gusto as they had expected. I don't know, so that's to one side. Okay, so bringing you up to speed, the other thing is that we wanted to look at what the preparations are, the state of preparations for Ondo State governorship elections, right? Yeah. That's coming up soon, and we have the Information Commissioner, Donald Ojogo. He is with us. Good morning, Mr. Ojogo.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for joining us. We're trying to touch base and find out, your impressions. Well, in your opinion, how well are we doing in terms of preparations for the elections there? I am in studio here alongside my colleague Asukwo James, just in case you hear a question from a different voice. So, your impressions on how well prepared we are.
Well, thanks, Uncle Yori. I think on our side, on the side of the governor, and generally on the side of the majority of the people of the state, especially members of the APC, we are prepared. We cannot wait any longer for Monday, 20th of July to come. We are fully prepared both psychologically and emotionally. And you recall, too, that the national leadership of the party, through the National Caretaker Committee, only yesterday, unveiled the primary election panel as well as the appeal panel in preparation for Monday's exercise. So we are upbeat, and the state, as it were, looks very eager to see to the conduct of the primary on the 20th of July, which is on.
Okay, in terms of your party, that is the APC, I know there have been about more than, I think if I'm not mistaken, about 12 or 14 aspirants, vying for the position. So, what are your chances?
Asuko, are you asking about the chances of Mr. Governor?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the situation is not different. We are in a familiar terrain. You recall that the number was even more in 2016, but we all saw the outcome. Now we have about 12 who have been cleared to run for the governorship ticket of the party, of course, including Mr. Governor, who was the candidate, who was elected the candidate and subsequently the governor of the state. It's just like yesterday when it happened in 2016. The aspirants were not less than 20. We all saw the results. So the situation we have found ourselves today is even less of tension in terms of the number of aspirants. So we don't see anything unusual under the circumstances we have found ourselves today. It is rather very interesting, and we can only say the more the merrier, and the result will not be different from what we had in 2016.
So in 2016, there was this similar situation. I know a couple of candidates actually contested for the primary in 2016, and some of them are also in this year's primary. Doesn't it also worry you guys that there seem to be this conflict in the APC in Ondo State? And how is the governor trying to, bring everybody together to make sure that you go to the battle, that is the eventual battle, as one united front?
Well, maybe the answer to that could be summed up in a manner that I would call a philosophical approach. When you had the governor in 2016, the number of aspirants he faced, like I told you, was more than what we've seen. But the similarity is that quite a good number of those aspirants there are still on the field canvassing for votes. So it is not too unusual. Again, you also recall that even after the entire scenario, Mr. Governor he made several attempts to reach out to those aspirants he had defeated at the level of the primary. I know, without being immodest, that he even approached some of them for them to be able to give him, at least for purpose of reconciliation and unity in the party. There were some who even offered the privilege or the opportunity of nominating running mate for him to also run with. But they declined. And they did not just decline. What they did was to work effortlessly towards undermining the process, towards ensuring that the election itself was sabotaged, and it didn't come to pass. So even after all those several futile attempts, the man won. But it didn't even stop at that point after his victory and ensured that necessary machinery were put in place to make up for whatever lapses that have been observed. You also note that without doubt, once a governor emerges in any state as an elected governor, is automatically the leader of the party. So Governor Akeredolu is the father of all, and he played a fatherly role to try to bring everybody up. But of course, we are all humans. In the last 3.5 years, Governor Akeredolu has spent about 2 years and 6 months managing or making efforts to ensure that people are brought on. The last most effective effort was, of course, in June, July last year, when he, alongside other leaders of the Southwest, tried to bring all others together. But this reconciliation process appears to have been sabotaged from time to time, that efforts have been made towards it. It is not the making of the government. There are those who believe that the unity of the party is not likely to serve their personal interests. And the unity of the party supersedes and must, of course, override the personal interests and the personal ambitions of individuals in the party. Recall, too, that in 2016, even after the loss of most of these aspirants, some of them did not just wait in the party to sabotage him, frantically. Some even dumped the party, went to run against him on the boards of other parties. And as a way of reconciling all these persons, you recall, too, one of the aspirants who dumped the party had come back to the party. And the major thing Mr. Governor did was to ensure that reconciliation started from the local government of that particular aspirant, which is in the larger local government. As I'm talking to you today, but because Mr. Governor wanted to ensure a seamless and transparent reconciliatory effort, he directed it. But it was with an executive here. So in every ward, out of the 12 wards in the larger local government, this particular aspirant who ran against him has 5 automatic delegates that Mr. Governor insisted that must be given to him. Amongst the local government executive, a particular percentage, which is also not less than 5 members, was also given to him. So that reconciliation has been on, and it has been on and on. There are some who did not even support the government in 2016 that are members of his cabinet.
Okay.
There are those who run against...
Sorry, Mr. Jogo, one moment, please. Our contribution from Emmanuel in Benue State. Good morning, Mr. Emmanuel.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
James, good morning.
Good morning.
I want to talk on the Niger Delta issue. It's very unfortunate when I think about Niger Delta. This issue is very complex and quite confusing. And the whole thing boils down to the indigenes of Niger Delta. You notice that it is a motley collection of strange bird fellows. You see, their chiefs have their boys who are aspiring to be like them. And there are different camps worship these chiefs. So when they commit evil, they are not seen as evildoers.
Okay. Sorry, sir. Because it's a different segment, perhaps you will understand when we say limit your comment to that. Thank you for it. Any comment on the upcoming, primaries in Ondo State?
Yeah, Ondo State. It's a fight of the giants. I don't know. I can't predict what will happen, but I think the incumbent governor will still say true. Thank you very much.
All right.
God bless Nigeria.
Indeed, thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Jogo. First of all, the other aspect of the deputy, Governor Akeredolu's deputy, there's been a falling out of sorts. How worrying is this? Because I think he's also setting himself up as a possible candidate ultimately when the big election comes.
Like I've always said and insisted that the defection of the deputy governor from the APC is not, we don't consider it as an issue. We rather concentrate our energy and whatever resources God has been gracious enough to give to us to channel our energy towards the primary and the October 10 general election. The man has left and he has left the party. If he has left the party and he still insists in government, we know, of course, it's not practical in governance, but he's insisting it's in government. We don't have any problem about that. But it will be illogical for us to perhaps always, at every given opportunity, to continue to discuss the issue of the deputy governor whose exit from the party has left no significant inputs. It has left no negative impact on the party. It has not had any meaningful impact or adverse effect on the activities of government. So we are not in any way affected. We have moved on and we have moved beyond that limit of, beyond that cabin of the issue of the deputy governor.
Shola Surulere has called him meanwhile.
No,
Fola, I beg your pardon. Yes. Sorry, Fola, good morning.
It's Fola Juwon.
Thank you very much, Fola Juwon.
Yes. I want to talk about NDCC.
Then you're going to have to make it very, very brief, please, so that you can also talk on your one. But
concerning your statement the other time, we need to generalize it, that the problem of NDCC are the people of the Niger Delta. The reason is that there was a time a company want to plant power generator in Port Harcourt.
Yeah.
That community is asking for money. Even the company is telling them that this thing, you people are going to benefit. They say they don't want. You can see that even the people that live in all those communities, all what they were after is money.
Yeah, but doesn't that also go back to the leadership?
Now said that they need money to be getting money rather than doing projects. Okay. So that's why those people need to be educated.
All right.
And oriented that money is not everything. That's my point. Thank you, sir.
But Ondo is also part of the Niger Delta region anyhow. But I wonder if Fola's comment, it doesn't really negate what we're saying, that it's the leadership. Because when you say the masses, the people behave in a certain way, I don't know, is that the leadership allows it, or that there is no leadership that would steer away from such attitudes?
If you are talking about that one, it's going to take a whole program for us to talk about NDDC. And I know Malaki would have said a lot of things. Well, they said the kind of leaders you have is based on what the Fullers give. And if you look at Niger Delta, because I'm from there, and the NDDC has been something I would call, it's just a cesspool of corruption completely. And so now that the president is saying that they should carry out forensic audits, which is good,
but it is being challenged that there's nothing going on, it's a sham.
The biggest thing is, will the president have the political will to deal with the people who will be found culpable?
But you don't even know those people who are going to be found culpable.
That's what you are saying, because the audit will be out. Yes. When the reports are out, will the president deal with them? Will they be prosecuted? So that Because if we don't name and shame, it will continue. People will still keep going to the NDDC. They will make their money, and then the region will be underdeveloped. I did my project on NDDC, you know, and I know what I found out when I went there. So apart from being from there, I know that the NDDC is not run the way it's supposed to be run. If we are talking about a commission that is meant for a region, you know, we don't want to talk about how much, you know, has been spent and all that. But let's go back to Ondo. Mr. Donald, I know you come from the same region, from the same zone with the deputy governor, because we have to talk about it. And so many people also moved with the deputy governor. People will be wondering, why didn't you also move with him?
Well, first and foremost, that is one of the many unfortunate insinuations that have been shown out to the public.
Okay.
It is not true. Prior to the movement of the deputy governor to the PDP, the story out there was that he was likely to move with about 9 members of the House of Assembly and a sizable number of members of the cabinet. I'm also from that cabinet. I'm also from the same local. In any case, my coming to cabinet in those states was at his was his own doing. Okay. But of course, you should know that whatever is illogical can never sway anybody who is determined. So the issue of the number of persons who have left with the deputy governor, it is non-existent. Nobody left with him. The only persons who have left with him are his first cousin who was the chairman of our party in the local government, who he brought on board. Of course, it's understandable. His defection last week to the PDP, we have no business about. He has since been replaced, meaning that we didn't miss him. Even now, we are not likely to miss. So he didn't move with anybody. Who did the deputy governor move with? From the APC to the PDP. Recall too, and that was in news everywhere, that when the national leadership of the party of the PDP came, they asked him, where are the lawmakers? It is still a foundational statement amongst politicians in the state, rather. So how many, tell me how many persons moved with you that you know. Every politician who knows his onion, every politician who has something to justify whatever decision he has taken, whether rightly or wrongly, will have to he won't hide it, he won't put it under the table. Nobody lights his candle and put it under the table. So if the deputy governor moved with one House of Assembly member, he would have been happy to announce it. If he had moved with a member of the cabinet, he would have been very happy to flaunt it. The truth of the matter is that he never moved with anybody. Of course, if anybody at that level of governance, if you are moving, some of your family members will move with you, unless those are the people you are referring to. So no significant thing has happened.
No, but there were plans for at the House of Assembly for his removal or his impeachment, you know, and so many people will always link it with the governor.
Well, that has fallen through, because I understand the chief judge.
Yes.
The chief judge is just not having any of it.
Exactly, you know.
How important is that as a development?
Well, it is normal. We don't see it as an abnormal thing for people to say that the governor is involved. This is not the first time the governor will be brazenly accused of what he never knew anything about. Mm-hmm. He knows nothing about this impeachment, but I can tell you emphatically, and with every sense of responsibility and courage, that the deputy governor of the state has no business remaining in government. And every well-meaning member of the party, particularly those of us who believe that this government has a role to play in terms of development, at least in the next 4 years, we believe strongly that the deputy governor must be. We might not be in a position to initiate the impeachment process, but the impeachment process came, the notice was served, and we all got to know about it, like you also heard about it or read about it, whether in the conventional or in the social media. But once it had been initiated, what those of us who are members of the party, well-meaning members of the party, can do is to continue to encourage the legislative arm of government to do the needful. But it will be unfortunate.
One moment,
if we single out
Mr. Jogo,
as the
Sorry to interrupt you. Aliu has called in from Lokoja. Good morning, Aliu.
Good morning, Uncle. How are you, sir?
Very well, sir. Thank you very much for calling in.
Yeah, the issue of the Kogi Senate on those state elections is like, on those state elections.
Yes.
Yeah, the problem we have in Ondo State is like the problem we're having in Ondo State is, hello?
We can hear you.
Go on.
Hello, are you with me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, the problem we have in Ondo State is like, a power play. In 2016, when I originally contested for the government, the deputy is from the power block. Why Akeredolu is from Owo? That is a bit, it's just fortunate to get the ticket. Suddenly, it's not from the ruling club there. Right now, when he has no office, he considers it a social project in our side, forgetting the people from Ondo, where the power block lies, and Akure. Now, these people realize that the man is not looking other to their own life. What they try to do to vote out. They now pull out the governor and use him to fight Akeredolu. It can't take him. APC is ready to use on those to beat. That is for sure.
Well, that's an interesting analysis right there. Thank you very much for calling in. Mr. Jogo, would you like to respond to this whole, that analysis? You heard it yourself.
Yes. Are projects evenly distributed?
Are indeed projects evenly distributed, or has Mr. Akeredolu thought that there's some catching up to be done in his area, so to speak?
That's a very interesting line of thought. One of the armchair analysis that is only laughable. I can tell you that in terms of development, Ondo South, where I come from, Ondo South, where the deputy governor hails from, has benefited more from this government. Please, the first and ever flyover in Ondo State, in Ore, is in Ondo South. It's not in Owo. The bypass from Okitiba to Igbokoda is not in Owo. It's not in Akoko. It's not in Akure. It's in Ondo South that links Okitiba and Igbokoda. The Araromi to Ibejuleki Road that is ongoing is not in Akoko. It's in Ondo South. The Deep Sea Port project that is almost 80%, that has got to 80% of friction, is not in Owo. It's not in Akure. It's in Ondo South. I can tell you that Mr. Governor, his mother is also from Ondo South. So for those who want to make analysis, they must dig deeper for them to be able to be effectively be abreast with facts before they come to the public to say what they need to do.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Jogo. Let me bring on another caller calling in from Akure. Wale is calling in from Akure. Good morning, Wale.
Good morning, Egunjori.
Thank you very much for calling in.
Nice talking to you.
Same here.
But it's always touching my heart when I hear Donald talk about deputy governor always. We all know who brought Donald to this government. I don't want to talk about that, but I just want to say that.
Well, I'm sure you don't want to make any personal attacks or anything like that.
He has also said that the deputy governor brought him.
Let me just say something.
Sure.
Presently in Ondo State, the question I want to ask the people on that side is that why is they always talking about Agbo? Agbo is no more in APC. They are saying they want to impeach. They couldn't get the number. They should stop saying that.
Well, truth be told, we brought the matter up.
Yes.
They did not. In fact, he has also expressed your own opinion that he's not really interested so much. But since we bring it up, he can't avoid the issue.
As of today in Ondo State, sir, I can tell you authoritatively that PDP is taking Ondo State. Either they like it or not, we all know what is happening. How can a sitting governor have 10 people from his hometown contesting against him in the same party?
All right.
That is an indictment on the part of the government.
Okay.
And nobody is saying something in that regard. What we need to be saying is that why is people from Owo contesting against the governor, even people from the same ward with him?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Wale, we like to hear different shades of opinions. So there you go. We're running out of time, but I think, Mr. Ojogo, you would like the opportunity to address that.
Yeah, I think that Wale's analogy is very interesting. I mentioned it before it came up. I'm not going to go back to that. But the truth of the matter, as spokesperson of government, once a matter is brought up, I must be courageous enough and dispassionately face it. That is just by the side. Nobody's interested in discussing the person and the personality of the deputy governor. Some of us are no more kids. The fact that somebody was brought into government doesn't make any difference. So we all know where we are coming from. That is by the side. The fact that 10 or 15 persons are contesting from our work doesn't make anything out of it. What we should be looking at is, has this man done what the people want in the state?
We're really going to have to leave it there, Mr. Ojogo, and I want to thank you, Donald, for coming on. Ondo State Commissioner for Information, Honorable Donald Ojogo. We thank you for your time. And that's our program today. Actually, the next one is going to be on Monday, right? Because we don't do weekends. So, as always, Asuku and I say, let's do our best to stay safe.